The one with the cooking class is, as is usually the case, a brilliant episode of Friends. This is the 21st episode of the 8th season. This is directed by Gary Halvorson. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And there are 3 parts to the narrative, so I'll talk about each of them in turn. I'll talk about Chandler first, and then Monica, and then Ross and Rachel. Chandler is going up for a job interview. It's a higher position. He's really nervous about it. And there's a moment where he walks into Central Park and Phoebe and Rachel are there, and he says, "Hi, Phoebe, fatty," which sounds offensive, but obviously he's talking to Rachel being pregnant. But the bit I love is that Jennifer Aniston's reaction seems so genuine. And I think either Matthew Perry improvised that, and that was her genuine reaction, or it's just genuinely funny and she couldn't help laughing in a way that kind of seemed very real. So I rather like that quite a lot. And Phoebe spends some time in the episode trying to help Chandler, I guess, be less Chandler, to not make jokes, to not laugh at things inappropriately. And he goes to the interview and it's going really well. And then the interviewer starts talking about his duties, which is fine in my accent, but not in the interviewer's accent, because he pronounces it duties. I can't do accents, but basically it sounds like he's saying poo. And at the end of the interview, it goes really, really well. And Chandler says, "I'm really relieved it went well. I didn't know how to get around the whole duties thing." And then the interviewer doesn't know what he's talking about. And I just absolutely love this exchange, because Chandler goes, "Poo," and the interviewer goes, "Poo?" And the bit I love is that Chandler panics, realizes he's done something wrong, and then probably about a minute later, maybe up to a minute, the interviewer a second time questions him with another "poo." I just think the first time it was funny, the second time it was brilliant, and I just absolutely loved how it played out. Yes, a part of me felt really sorry for Chandler because he kind of messed it up right at the end there, but I still found it to be a really fun part of the episode. And it's always nice when we get a little focus on Chandler's career, because even though in this episode he mentioned what he does, I still just don't take it in. I don't process it. So I rather enjoyed that quite a lot. Then we come to Monica. And at the start of the episode, Ross comes into Central Park with these big bundles of newspapers because Monica got a bad review. Alejandro's got a bad review, and Ross gathers all of the papers nearby so she doesn't see it. And it just made me smile a bit, because if this were today, obviously it wouldn't play out that way, because reviews go online instantly, and actually people probably would have tagged Alejandro's in it. And she comes in anyway and she ends up seeing the review, and needless to say, she's devastated. So with Joey's help, she goes down to this cooking class that the Critic is hosting to make him try her food again, and it doesn't go according to plan. But what happens after, I love, because the cooking class after is a beginner's cooking class, and Monica answers a question right just as she and Joey are about to head out of the door. And obviously she gets it right, and she gets praise for it. And she realizes, well, maybe she can just stay in the class. And she makes Joey stay in the class, and she's getting the questions right. And she's even made herself a little star out of tin foil, and Joey gets an A, because his baking went really well and he got an A and he was delighted. And then Monica had to reveal that she's a chef, and she revealed why she was actually there. And I love the fact that she was quite happy to admit that as a person she's totally crazy, but she's a good chef, and that's what counts to her. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was a great part of the episode, and it also helps to show that review, yes, it could do damage, it could turn away people from her restaurant, but I feel like Monica was less concerned about that. As long as business is doing fine, I don't think she was concerned about that. I think it was more a bruise to her ego. And by going to that cooking class, it helped to show that was just one person's opinion. That was one critic's view. Again, yes, it could potentially affect business, but it turned out that other people like her cooking. They like Alejandro's, and that was enough to make Monica happy. So I think there's a good lesson there, that if you do get a bad review for anything that you do, or if you get a bad comment, it doesn't matter. It's one person's opinion. So I really enjoyed that. I love Joey's enthusiasm as well. And I think they could have taken a different direction with Joey. They could have made Joey the chef. I'm glad they didn't. I think it works well that Joey likes to eat food, but he doesn't really cook a lot, which means he orders takeout a lot, and it's part of his character. But it could have been interesting to see Joey becoming a chef. It's not uncommon for sitcom characters, or any characters, to enjoy food and then realizing that their destiny is to become a chef or a baker or whatever it is they want to do. And they could have gone down that road. I'm not saying they should have done, it gave us a little glimpse at what it could have been like if Joey decided to explore the baking side of eating rather than the eating side. And I enjoyed it a lot. Then we come to Ross and Rachel, and we learn that Rachel is a week away from her due date. It's come around very, very quickly. And they don't have anything they need for the baby, which I have to say is a little irresponsible. I feel like maybe Rachel, we could give her a pass. It's her first pregnancy, but Ross is already a father. He should know that you need a crib at least earlier than a week before the due date. They go shopping, and the cashier ends up flirting with Ross, and when she learned that he was a paleontologist who worked out, she referred to him as Indiana Jones, and Ross replies, I am like Indiana Jones, which is not a comparison I don't think anybody had made before, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. And when the stuff's being delivered, Katie, the cashier, actually delivered it herself, or she delivered something to the door, which I think is not allowed. I don't think you're meant to get a shopper's home address for your personal needs, but nevertheless, she does. She's played by Rena Sofer, and she asks him out. And this is the bit that I love, because later on, Rachel says to him that she doesn't want him to see other people, but she doesn't also want to date him herself. She wants him there at her beck and call 24/7. And she knows she's being unreasonable, and I love that. And I love the fact that Ross said, okay. And Rachel responded to that with, really? But I'm being so unreasonable, which I enjoyed. But it just shows how much Ross really cares for Rachel. Because if it was anybody else, even if it was somebody else carrying his child, but they had the same kind of not actually in a relationship, I don't think he would have said yes. But it's clear he cares about Rachel, and maybe he actually does want to be there for her 24/7, but he doesn't know how to admit it, because that would be opening a huge can of worms. And it gets even more interesting because earlier on in the episode, Ross needed to pee. So Rachel tricked him and made him delay going to pee. So Ross does the exact same thing at the end of the episode when Rachel needs to pee. And he starts talking about how it might be weird, them living together, but they're not in a relationship. Maybe they should start something up again. And Rachel doesn't say no. She doesn't say, don't be ridiculous. And it just, we kind of get to dig a little bit deeper into where both of their heads are at. I don't think either of them truly knows how they feel about the other person or what they really want. And if they did know, I don't think they'd be willing to admit it to themselves, never mind the other person. But we'll talk more about that later on. And for now, of course, I'm pleased to say that the one with the cooking class is a delightful, great fun episode of Friends. Personal highlights would have to be Chandler's interview. And the little dinosaur toy, the soft toy, the dinosaur at the baby store. I don't know if that's the correct term for it, but that was absolutely adorable. And the cooking class as well. So brilliant episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely a fabulous episode of Friends.